Alrighty, guys, welcome one and all. This is your host, ID Jester. So, here we go. The top 100 board games of all time preview show. So, I thought I would do a quick intro video to kind of talk about the way I rank the games, the way I'm going to be doing this and going forward. And then I'll also give a shout out to a few honorable mention games that didn't make it in the top 100 that I really thought might make it in there. Anyways, I thought it would be good to kind of go over this stuff so everyone tomorrow when they show up for the actual live stream of the top 100 board games of all time tomorrow, Thursday, 8 o'clock. As you can see, the little schedule right here, April 13th. April 13th, 8 o'clock. So tomorrow. So hopefully you'll be able to stop in and check that out. We're going to be going through number 100 down to 91. And then Friday, we're going to do the same thing, 90 through 81. The next Thursday and Friday, we're going to do 71, 61, and then finally on the 27th, we're going to go down to 51. And then starting April 30th, we're going to switch from a Thursday, Friday. We're switching to Sunday, and we're doing our top 50. We're doing those with Phoenix Knight, Lower Slower Board Gamer, and, of course, good friend of the channel, Higher Ground Gaming. So the three of them are going to be joining me, but they didn't want to do 100 games. They just wanted to do 50. And I totally understand that because it's a lot of time and effort and work. So I decided, okay, if we're going to do that, then we'll do that every Sunday night. And we'll start that April 30th. So I'm going to get my 100 down to 51 before that. So we're going to be busy Thursday, Friday this week, Thursday, Friday next week, and then the following Thursday. Look at the schedule and you'll see the schedule there. So, and of course, starting April 30th, Lower Slower Board Gamer, Phoenix Knight, Higher Ground Gaming, they're going to be doing it as we count down 50 to 41, 40 to 31, etc. down for the next 5 weeks after that, every Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on the channel. So looking forward to that. So again, I'm just going to kind of go over quickly here the way I doing my top 100 board games of all times and how I made my decisions. Right. Well, first decision was to actually do it. Right. That was it was a commitment. I've actually 2022 spent the last 6 months of 2022 really prepping for this. I knew it was coming because I finally decided I wanted to do it. And then this is one of these things. It's like writing a book, right? You can write a book and you can keep writing the book and you keep editing the book and editing the book and editing the book. But sooner or later, you got to stop editing the book and release the book. That's kind of where I'm at. I could sit here and edit my top 100 list all I want, but I had to finally put a date on it and say, okay, I kept saying March, just wait until March of 2023. And March came and I was like, holy crap, it's March. And I didn't do anything about this. And now all of a sudden it's April of 2023. So now I put the deadline on and I said, no, I'm starting it. I'm doing it right now. And luckily, we got a few people that are going to help us with our top 50, which is great. And I look forward to working with those guys. Lower Slower Board Gamer, check out his channel. Check out Higher Ground Gaming. We play every Sunday night here on the channel. And of course, Phoenix Knight, check out his channel. So 3 great YouTubers are going to be joining me as we count this down. So, as I said, pulling the trigger to actually come out. A little bit. Actually just pulling the trigger and getting a date set in stone, right? That's kind of the important thing. So that's done now. We're starting tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, then next week, Thursday and Friday, and then the following Thursday. That'll be my 100 down to 51, and then starting April 30th. And we'll try and post a video and keep everyone up on speed so you can try to make it. Every Thursday and Friday for the next couple weeks as we go through it. So, just a little bit about what I'm doing with this top 100. Okay, a lot of people post their top 100s, and I watch all of them because I like to see how other people think of games. But the thing I would tell you is This is a list made up of my personal preferences, my experiences, my tastes, my likes, and my dislikes. So if your game isn't rated in the top 100, that's just because maybe I haven't played it or I don't enjoy it or whatever. It doesn't mean it's a bad game or anything. Every one of these games in my top 100 for me is a game that I've played several times in the last couple years. So the way I rank my games is, first thing is, how much do I like this game, right? If I had to score it from 0 to 10, no, let's say 0 to 100, all right? If I had to rank a game from 0 to 100, what score would I give it just on the game alone, right? So let's say I think of a game and I say, this is probably about an 82 out of 100. Really good game, 82 out of 100. Then it's going to get pluses and minuses for how many times have I played this game in the last 10 years. Have I played this game, more than 5 times in the last 10 years? It's going to get a plus 1 to its score. Have I played this game 10 or more times in the last 5 years? It's going to get a plus 2 to its score. If I played it 10 or more times in the last year, it's going to get a plus 4 to its score. So I'm going to give the game a higher rating based upon how many times I've actually played the game and how many times I've had the game. Again, if I've played it in the last 10 years, it might get a point. If I played it in the last 5 years 10 times, 10 times in the last 5 years, it's going to get 3 points. And if it's 10 times in just the last year, it's going to get like 10 extra points. So it's probably like a fun 5 and 10 combination there. So obviously, the more I play the game, the more I think highly of it. I have, according to Board Game Geek, I think I have 630 different board games right now. So when I look at my collection and I decide what to play, right, there's a subconscious, I want to play this game over all the other ones that are currently on the shelf, either because I haven't played it in a while or because I watched somebody else play it and I got interested in it again, or I haven't played it for a while, so I want to get it to the channel. If those games that have been sitting here on the shelves collecting dust for the last couple years, they're not going to get ranked real high because if you're not playing them, they can't be your favorites. It can be an awesome, totally great game. It can be the number 1 board game of all time on Board Game Geek, right? But if I'm not playing it, it's not my top 100 game. So that's how I'm ranking my games. I am taking it as, what is this game? How good is it on its own? And then I'm adjusting it up or down based upon how much have I played this game. And the second thing I rated for, and I'm telling you guys this up front so everyone's prepared and understands this, if this game has a good solo mode, it's automatically getting an extra 5 points. Automatically an extra 5 points for a good solo mode, because I play a lot of my games solo. So if it's got a good solo mode, it deserves extra rating. So you will notice, especially say from 50 to number 1 for me, there's a lot of really good quality solo games because I'm giving those games extra points based upon just the fact that it has a great solo mode. So that's important to me. It might not be important to you, but it's important to me, and this is my list. So what's important to me goes on my list. We are going to be including every kind of game that I own, which includes Euro games, Ameritrash games, war games, sports games, card games, anything that you can put on a table and play with somebody, right? Tiddlywinks. If I thought Tiddlywinks, remember Tiddlywinks? Holy cow. if I thought Tiddlywinks is the top 100 game, I would have that and put it on my list. Because if it's a game that you can sit down and play, right? Craps, right? If I could sit down and play craps, which I can, because I have all the poker chips and I have all the dice, I could sit down and play craps if I wanted to, right? So anything you can sit down and play at the table, either with people or by yourself, it has the potential to be on the list. Sports games, yes, absolutely. I don't care if you don't consider that a board game or not. I don't really care. It's not your list, it's my list. If you care about it, you go do your own list, right? I know a lot of people that do these games focus in on just one aspect. There's a lot of war gamers, and they have their top 50 or top 100 or top 20 war games of all time. And I know there's a lot of Euro gamers, a lot of Euro gamers. There's a ton of Euro gamers. And they do their lists, right? And they do it at top 100 or top 50, top 20 Euro games of all time. And occasionally, like a war game might sneak in, but they don't mention that, right? They might get like a coin game in, or, kind of a Labyrinth, The War on Terra, or maybe Memoirs, or maybe Memoir 44, or maybe Command and Colors, or something like that. They don't mention, oh, this is a war game that's on my list. They just mention, oh, and here, number 26 is Memoir 44, and blah, 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 and they talk about it, and this, that, and the other thing, right? So a lot of people, other YouTubers, are keep wargaming separate, and sports games separate, and Euro games separate from one another. Not me, not my channel. That's what we don't play that games here on my channel. If it's a game and you can sit down and play it on the table, either with people or by yourself, it's a board game. It deserves to have a chance to be on your list. So I actually have card games. I have war games. I have sports games. I have Euro games. I have any game that you could possibly think of that has the potential to be on my list. So that's how I'm creating my top 100 of all time. If it's a board game, whether it's solo only or whatever, if it's a Euro game, a sports game, it doesn't matter. If it's possible to play it, I'm going to put it, has a chance to be on my list. Doesn't mean it'll make it. It has to beat out a lot of competition. Now, with all that said, right? With all that said, when you're a Euro gamer and you're doing your top 100 list and you're putting 100 Euro games on here, it is super easy to do because you don't have to worry about adding in X number of sports games. You don't have to worry about X number of board games, X number of war games, X number of everything else. I'm taking the whole world, right? The whole world, and lumping them into one category. And I was actually super surprised at the list when it finalized. I thought it was going to be dominated by Euro games because I'm mostly a Euro gamer. I would say, if you're not familiar with me and my channel, I'm mostly into Euro gaming or Ameritrash, however you want to call it. I just call it board gaming. I'm normally a board gamer 60% of the time. And then I do war game about 20% of the time. And I do sports game the other 20% of the time. So I'm a 6-2-2 is what I call it. I'm a 60-20-20. So that's usually about my sweet spot, right? So I thought when I was going to do this list, right, my bias was going to come into play. And I was going to have a list that was going to end up being like 5 war games and 5 sports games, and the rest are going to be dominated by Euro games. Dominated. And I was pleasantly surprised, like a whole bunch of sports games and war games actually made the list. And when I look, because I started color coding everything, I color coded sports games green and war games is yellow, and so I scrolled up and down, and it looks like a Christmas tree because it's all green and yellow. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is crazy. How did that happen? Holy cow. If you want to get in, you got to be ready tomorrow. Here's the list. April 13th, tomorrow. April 14th, Friday. That's the list. If you want to do it and you want to be ready tomorrow, then sure, you can come in and join me tomorrow. That's fine. I don't mind. But you got to be ready to go with your top 100 tomorrow, ready to go. No questions asked. Ready to go. So you finished your list. I've been editing my list. I was actually editing it today at work, and I was like, oh man, wow. So the other thing, right? So again, I'm including every game in the whole world. So if you're a Euro gamer and you're looking just for Euro games, I would highly recommend you go watch somebody else's top 100 list, because mine is pleasantly surprised, where there was a lot of war games that made the list, which I was very afraid that wargaming, again, because of my bias. I'm 60-20-20. 60% Euro, 20% wargamer, 20% sports gamer. I figured my bias, okay, I can't do tomorrow night. I can do top 90 then. Yeah, that's the list right there, buddy. I'm doing Thursday, Friday this week, Thursday and Friday next week, and then the following Thursday, because I have to get those 50 done before we start with the full group, counting down the 50. So I have to get on that. I can't wait. So I have to get it started right away. So if you can't do it, let me know what day you're going to make it. Otherwise, you don't make it. Or you can do it on your channel. Do it when you can. So if you want to do that, that's fine too. Anyways, so pleasantly surprised, right? Again, when I'm rating the games, I rate the game based upon how good is this game, and then I'm rating it as how many times have I played this in the last 10 years, how many times have I played this in the last 5 years, and how many times have I played this in the last 1 year, right? If I played it 10 or more times in the last 10 years, point. If I played it 10 or more times in the last 5 years, it's 5 points. If I played it 10 or more times in the last year, it means it's really good. It's getting 10 points based upon just that. Because if you're playing the game, especially 10 times in 1 year, you must really, really like this game. It might not be a good game, right? It might not be a good game to people. It might not be ranked really well. But for you, it's really good and it's really important. You just parallel you on your channel then. Yeah. Do that. Do that. I think that'll work better. I think that will be better. Because that way you can do it. You can do your 100 through 91. I'll have a chance to watch it and enjoy it. And same thing with Phoenix Knight, because he thought about maybe doing the same thing ahead of time. So I think that'll be super cool. And we can all compare notes when we get together then on our, when we do our 50. So I think that'll work out good. So how am I doing my actual rankings again? It is, kind of point based upon how many times I played it. And I also told you guys, if the game has a great solo mode, super important to me, might not be important to you, but super important to me, 5 points automatically if it's got a good solo mode, right? If I'm playing the game and I play it solo and I've got to run the game, it's important for me to have a good solo mode. So if it's got a good solo mode, it's going to be highly ranked. So every game from like 50 to 1 is probably going to be a game that's got a pretty decent solo mode, because they're going to get extra points based upon that. So just be prepared for that. And of course, sports games are kind of the anomaly, because you don't have to, but 95% of the time you play them solo anyways, and they're designed to be solo, so they automatically get points for being a great solo, because you're going to have to run both sides equally, just as easy and as well as you can. So the big question and debate, and everyone can do this differently. Higher Ground Gaming might do it differently. Lower Gaming might be doing it differently. But here's how I'm doing it with my list. If the game or the game system is similar, I'm not giving each game in that series a different spot. So what does that mean, Jester? What that means is, let's take, for example, Target for today, right? let's say Target for Today makes the list. Well, there's Target for Today, there's Target for Tonight, there's B-29 Super Fortress, there's Hell Over Korea. I mean, there's like 4 or 5. There's Skyhawk, the new one, right? So there's basically 4 or 5 games in that series. They're all run exactly the same way. They all have the exact same kind of mechanics, same kind of theme, same kind of everything. I'm not going to have Target for Today have a spot and Target for Tonight have a different spot. I've combined those into one outing. Okay. Like a game like Tiger Leader, right? So Tiger Leader and Sherman Leader by DVG, right? 2 systems, very similar theme, same mechanics. There might be 1 or 2 different rules. Obviously, you're doing kind of different theaters and stuff like that. But I mean, very similar games. I'm not going to have those games take up different slots. I'm going to have a Tiger Leader and a Sherman Leader combined into one outing. So that's how I'm doing it. I don't know how Higher Ground Gaming is doing his. Lower Store Board Gamer, I'm not sure how he's going to do his. And Phoenix Knight, I'm not sure if he's going to separate his or not. But I'm not going to separate. Now, with that said, when you compare, say, like Zero Leader and Tiger Leader, now they're both in the leader system, okay? But there's massive differences between how the games play, right? So I've got Zero Leader and Corsair Leader as one group, and I've got Tiger Leader and Sherman Leader as a different group. Even though they're all kind of from the same system, Sherman Leader and Tiger Leader, you can see how they're related. And so they're like one unit. And you have Zero Leader and Corsair Leader, you can see how they're related. They're one group. I'm not combining all the leaders into one group because you have modern day, you have Vietnam, you have World War II, you have Pacific theater, you have European theater. So I'm not taking and separating those. I'm taking game systems that are very similar games and just have, like Gloomhaven. If you're familiar with Gloomhaven, you have Gloomhaven, then you have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Basically, Jaws of the Lion is Gloomhaven in a smaller box with different rules. It's basically the exact same game, the exact same way you do things, the exact same mechanics. There's no changes. All it does is taking the big box from Gloomhaven and put it into a smaller box and taking out, a whole bunch of the, extra stuff. They kind of condensed it down to something manageable and easy. So for me, Gloomhaven / Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion are one thing. It's not going to be 2 different things. Okay? Again, I don't know how the other guys are going to do theirs. We'll talk to them when we do our preview show with those guys coming up in a couple weekends. And we'll talk to them about how they're going to do how they're setting up their top 50 of all time. Or maybe we'll even see it on their channels if they do any previews or if they do like their top 100, top 90, top 80 before the 30th. That all happens April 30th. It's a Sunday at 8 o'clock. Sunday at 8 o'clock. We're doing 50 to 41, April 30th, Sunday at 8 o'clock. So hopefully you can put that on your calendars and make it. We will all get together and do it then. What else was I going to talk about? I think that was about all I wanted to kind of cover. It's just kind of, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions, and I'm going to just say, go watch the preview show. I explained it all in the preview show. Go watch the preview show, because people will be like, well, how can you put this game on your list? And what kind of games? If you want to know, I'll tell you what kind of games I enjoy playing. I've been playing games for 45 years. So I've been playing games. I was a Columbus Area Board Game Society member for 15 years. If you're not sure what Columbus Area Board Game Society member is, it is basically a game group in Columbus, Ohio that I belonged to for 15 years. We would meet once a week, every week. That's right, every week we would meet on a Friday night, or we alternated Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday. Friday was just Friday night. Saturday was all day from like 10 o'clock in the morning until usually 1, 2 o'clock at night. I would usually be there at opening, and usually not. I would usually get there about 12 to 1 o'clock because I didn't want to get up early, right? I would get there about lunchtime, and then I would have lunch, and then I was in for it from 12 o'clock usually to 1, 2 o'clock. And I was usually helping them pack up things Saturday night, Sunday morning when they were closing the shop up. So I've had plenty of time to gather and play games with plenty of people for many, 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 many years. So I own 600 board games. The kind of games that I enjoy strategy games. They give you tough decisions to make. I enjoy games that are card based, card driven, card management, card manipulation. I love anything with cards in it. I think the big joke going around in Florida right now is every time Jester gets a shipment in, the state tips another foot over on its side, because like literally if a hurricane comes through my neighborhood, there's literally going to be 5 million cards flying around in the air in Bradenton, Florida, as my house explodes and all the cards get ripped out of the boxes. So they're going to be finding cards from here all the way to Michigan when the tornado, and it's all coming from my house. So that's kind of the big joke that happens every time Jester gets a new thing. I just got a new package today. It came with some Ticket to Ride game with, that's got the tickets, right? It's got the tickets in it, and of course it's got the different train piece cards that you got to pick up. So yeah, lots of cards. It doesn't have to be all cards. It's just, I love games with cards. I love managing cards. I love it doesn't necessarily have to be cards, right? But I do enjoy the card games. I like fantasy, right? Obviously I like sports, or I wouldn't be playing sports games, but I like sports. I like fantasy. Fantasy's kind of like my main mojo thing, right? If I look and I see a fantasy theme, that's usually more, gets my juices flowing more than like sci-fi or steampunk. I like sci-fi and I like steampunk. Those are fine. It's just I like fantasy. I also like the gothic fantasy a little bit more, like vampires and werewolves and dark. I like, I'm not a 13-year-old girl. I know it's hard for you to understand that. I'm not a 13-year-old guy. I'm not a 13-year-old girl. I like my dark fantasy, right? I like dark, dangerous. I like where punishing games that put you into I need to do X or bad things are going to happen. What's the game called? It's called, I can't think of it right now. Like Battlestar Galactica, right? Have you ever played Battlestar Galactica? That was like I had that and played that a bunch, and I wish I would have never got rid of that stuff because that was awesome. And it was a great game to play with a lot of people, like 6, 7, 8 people, and trying to work out who was the traitor and who kept throwing in all the all the bad cards that would work against us and stuff like that. So, games like that with traders in them, Shadows over Camelot are always fun games where you're trying to manipulate what the other person can do. Like Clank type games where you're working against somebody, like you're trying to out duel them, outthink them. Games like that, that's kind of my sweet spot of games, and you're going to see a lot of games that are like that. Again, I like the horror fantasy, very dangerous. Arkham. If you're familiar with the Arkham series, you're going to see a lot of Arkham stuff on there, and just general fantasy games in general. As far as sports games go, I enjoy baseball and hockey are my two sweet sports. I can do football. I don't do basketball. I don't do soccer. I've done a little bit of tennis. And I enjoy golf games. I don't enjoy golf that much, but I enjoy the golf games. As far as war games, I enjoy tactical level games mostly. I've done some bigger, more strategic games, but of course those games take up more space, more time, more effort, stuff like that. So I try to focus in on the smaller tactical level, quick playing, couple hour type games. I don't, and this goes for any game, I usually don't like to have a game last more than 3 or 4 hours because I just get bored with. I want to move on to something else. I'm the kind of guy that I can play a game, play it for 3-4 hours, have a great time, and then the next minute play something else and enjoy it just as much. Some people like playing a game over and over and over and over again. I'm always looking for the next. Even when I'm playing something, I'm always thinking about what am I doing next? What am I doing next? What am I doing next? So I'm looking for something small, quick, easy, couple hours. If it plays 10 minutes, if it plays 2 hours, that doesn't really matter to me. But if it's going to take 3 or 4 hours, then I got to commit to it. Because I'm thinking in my brain, that game that's going to take me 3 or 4 hours, I can play 3 other games. Why would I play your game if I can play 3 other ones? That's 3 games versus 1. For me, and the way my brain works, quantity is more important than quality, right? Which is, I know, different than a lot of people think. But that's why I play so many different games, because I can go from one to the next really quickly. And, it's just the way my brain works. What else? So let's talk about... Again, we're doing the sports games, the war games, the card games. If it's something you can sit down and play with either yourself or somebody else, it is a game. It's a board game. I put everything in that category. And again, there are a lot of people that do their top 100 lists and they do all Euro games. And that would be so simple. I'd be able to sit down and do that. But I'm incorporating every single solitary game in the world: chess, tiddlywinks, checkers, Chinese checkers, Go, and of course all the war games, all the sports games, and everything. And you're going to see it all on the list. Pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. How did I actually get to my list? I went and spent 2022. And I've been telling everyone this. I've been spending the last 6 to 8 months preparing for this moment. This is my moment to shine. Preparing for this by importing all of my game collection. My dog wants to know if Ball is on the list. I've been preparing for this. So I put my board game collection into Board Game Geek. And I've been buying every game that I can get my little grubby little fingers on. And I've been playing every game that I've been able to get my little grubby fingers on, because I wanted to get as many games played before the list started. Because obviously if I've never played you, you are not going to be on this list. And there are probably, I would say, 30 games on this list that I have played just within the last couple months. And if I wouldn't have purchased them and I wouldn't have gotten them and I wouldn't have played them a couple times, they probably wouldn't have made this list. So that's why in the last 6 or 8 months, I've been going crazy with buying tons and tons and tons and tons of games, because I knew if I was going to do a top 100 list, I wanted to go and play a lot of these games I haven't played in a while so I can remember, right? Well, how good was that game? I love that game, but was it any good? Will it still be any good? So there's a lot of games that I repurchased. There's a lot of new games that I was like, oh, I hear about this game. I should buy this game. Oh, like Ark Nova that came out in 2021. I finally picked it up, I think last year in 2022. I'm like, I need to find out if this game is going to make my top 100 list. So the last 6 to 8 months, I've been buying up everything, getting lots of shipments in so I can do this list and prepare, play lots of games. As you saw in January, we did 31 games in 31 days. We played 31 different games in January. We played 31 different games in March, again, for this purpose, because I knew sooner or later I was going to do my list of the top 100 games of all time. So I put my games into Board Game Geek. I've edited my profile. I've made sure all the games that I had there. And then what I did was I went to Pub Meeple. And if you're not familiar, I've done a video on them a couple months ago. And on Pub Meeple, you can import your list from Board Game Geek, and then you can rank games. And basically what it does is it pulls up 2 random games and it asks you, do you like this one or do you want this one? And you have to make a tough choice. You have to go with A or you got to go with B. And then it does this like 10,000 times. No, it doesn't ask you that many. I think it was like 3,000 and some odd quest times it asked me. I think that's what it said for my collection. I have 660 some games. So, 638 maybe. I forget what the number was actually. Anywho, and it'll ask you, and then it'll start ranking them based upon which you choose. What are you choosing, buddy? You choosing A or you choosing B? And then when the list gets done, I went through the list, and here's the problem, right? The problem is I don't own every game that's on this list, because there are a bunch of games that I love that I don't currently own because either A, they're too hard to find, B, the cost is way out of control for these games now because, there's too many people that want to buy them, and I'm not paying premium for the game because it's just not that important to me because, I'm not going to spend that kind of money because, again, I could buy 5 games for the price that you want me to pay for your one stupid game. Or it's just out of print and you can't find it anywhere. So there's a lot of games. I wouldn't say a lot. I would say maybe there's probably 8 games on this list that I don't currently own. But once I got the list from Pub Meeple, I then had to go and edit it and put in all the games that I don't currently own that I wanted to include in my... And I probably put a list of maybe 30 games. I went through basically Board Game Geek, and every game from like 100 or from 1 to 1,000, if I didn't own it, I looked at that game and I said, would I add this to my list? Yes or no? And the ones I said yes, I wrote it down. So I had a list of like 25 or 30 extra games that I don't currently own. And then came the big melding of the 2 lists. So I have my list that Pub Meeple created, from 1 to 100 based upon my selections. I want this one. I want this one. I want this one. Yes. B, A, B, B, A, B. And you do that for like 2 hours. And you're, by the time it gets done, you're like, wow, thank God you're done. But you finally get a list, right? And it'll rank all your games from 1 to 600. Oh, actually, that's good. Probably I can see how many games I actually. No, I can't because I ended up deleting the bottom half because I knew I was going to use the bottom half. So anywho's, so then I had that list of 1 to 100, which does a pretty decent job. But then it's all algorithms and math and all that, and you go, oh no, I would never rate this game like 22nd. That is way too low, or that's way too high, right? So then you make your fine tune adjustments up and down. This game, uh, Pub Meeple ranked it at 18 now. It's probably like a 25 or 30. So then you're flopping things around on your list. And then, of course, you're taking the 30 to 40 that I had wrote down that I don't currently own. And I had to meld in which one of those I wanted to add to the list. So that's what I've been doing for the last week, is like melding in and moving things up and down and up and down and up and down and in and out and okay, I want this one. No, I don't want this one. It's not that great. And then this one's got to be ranked higher. It absolutely is not the 88th best game of all time. And then you're going to move it up and you're like, who am I moving down? Like, then all of a sudden it's like tough. It's like tough decisions, because it's like, no, there's no way this game is 88th best game of all time. No way. It's got to be in the 60s. So then you look at the guys that are in the 60s and you go, well, who is it going to replace? Like, I mean, you can find a few, that you can flip flop around, because this one deserves a couple spots up and this deserves a couple spots down. But eventually it gets to the point where it's like, this 88th best game, I can't move it up because I don't feel right about moving it up. And even though I'm not happy that it's the 88th best game in the world. But again, when you add in 25 to 30 war games, right? And you add in 20 to 25 sports games, that's like 40 to 45. So you're really, in essence, your top 100 list, you're only adding in like 50 to 55 Euro games. And I was very surprised that it ended up being, like I was saying in the beginning, I'm 60% Euro, 20% war games, and 20% board games. But I think, let's count them out. /23 /24 war games. Again, whether depending on your definition of a war game, like, is Space Empires, is that a war game? Is it not a war game? Right? So depending on what your definition of war game. So you got like 23 of those. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16, now I got to start over because I missed 1, 2, 3, 4. About 15 sports games, roughly. So that was 25, 35, 40. So that was 40 games. So really, I only have room for 60 Euro games in my top 100 list, right? So, and even though it's like, this game, right? Wow, there's no way that this game is 50. 50? Come on. It's got to be lower. But then you got to realize you're including war games. You're including sports games. If I was creating just Euro games or just war games or just sports games, my list would be, probably a lot different. There you go. So let's give some honorable mentions to the ones that just didn't make it, just outside the top. And I thought, they would. So let's talk about why they ended up outside the top. And so you can kind of see how I'm doing this. Let's start with this one down here at the bottom. This is Nations, the dice game, which I'm a huge Nations guy. I love that game. I love that system. We played it several times. Is it going to make my top 100 list? I'm not telling you, but I'm not telling you if it made the list. But we just picked this up because it's Nations, but it's dice, right? But here's the thing. It's a great game. Awesome game. But I only played it like once or twice, and I haven't played it enough to really like love this game, fall in love with it like I fell in love with Nations. If I played it some more, it might make the list. It's a quick, easy game. I think it plays in 20 to 40 minutes. Solo, I would say about 45 to an hour, right? I don't think it's 20 to 40 minutes. I never put the correct time on any of these boxes. I would say about 45 minutes to an hour, which is fine. You can play 2 or 3 games in a night. Again, because I don't normally do that myself, I'm trying to force myself to do that. Unfortunately, I can't. And so this game didn't make it. It was, what number was this? This is 106. So it's just outside the top 100. Great little game. It's basically Nations with dice, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I do have the expansion that goes with it. I can't remember the expansion name, but adds the different factions to it. And I probably would make the top 100 if I had a chance to play it more. So that's why, again, this one didn't make it. All right. Let's look at number 104. So this is just 4 spots for making the list. Same thing. Ugh. This is a monster, though. Dragonfire. Remember I always said I love my fantasy, right? This is a fantasy Dungeons and Dragons game. And this one actually plays pretty decently solo. I've actually had this out on my table in the last 2 years. I know I had this out on my table, set up, ready to go 2 different times, and I never pulled the trigger on it because it is a lot of work to manage to play it solo because you're running basically 4 different characters, and you got to run the AI against yourself as well, and you're managing decks, and you're managing cards, and you're doing all this, and just a normal, typical scenario, solo takes it probably 2 to 3 hours. And even though the box probably lies through their teeth and says, I don't see a time on here. I could be missing it, but if it does say a time on here, but whatever it takes 3 times as long solo mode. And the other thing is I have a ton of expansions in here. I think I have every single expansion for this game. And they had a whole bunch of new cards and magic items and encounters and random events and all kinds of cool things. But you got to manage and separate all that stuff. And so, like, I get this game out because this is a great game. And I really want to play it. It's a great game. That's why it made it to 104, because it's a great game. But it might be ranked like 80 to 85, but it loses a lot of points because I haven't played it in the last 5 years because it's hard to manage. And the solo mode is good, but it's just so hard to manage it. And I wish if you could play this with 1 or 2 characters, it would be so much better, right? But you have to play with 4 characters because the difficulty is based upon you playing 4 characters, which means if you got 4 people, it's a great game to play. This is hard to manage solo. So that's why this one didn't make it. So now you guys can understand what my thinking and how I'm going about this. Here's another one. This is 103. This 3 spots from the top 100. Didn't quite make it. Ooh. Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. Awesome game, but it runs into the same problem. It is 14 and up, 2 to 5 players, and the average time on this is 1 hour per player. Lie. If you're playing this solo, it is 3 hours minimum. I think our live stream actually took 2 nights to play it. It is one of the most greatest games. I cannot tell you how, guys, if you can find this game, number one, it's hard to find. So that's okay. If you can find it cheap, get this game, right? Because the events that you go on in this game are some of the funnest game, some of the funnest events. You're running a tribe of characters, and you have your characters and you have your vehicle, right? And you can have like an old jalopy, you can have like a tank, just it's all random cards that you're pulling out of decks, right? But you got to manage all this stuff with all your characters. So it is a lot for solo. It is just a lot for solo. It's great. It just takes 3 or 4 hours to play it. But this is the only game I know of in recorded board game history that has you with an encounter called, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it is like the Naked Amish Rake Fight. And I am not kidding you. Go on Board Game Geek or go on Google and type in Naked Amish Rake Fight. There's an encounter in here, and I actually pulled it when we played this game on my channel about last year sometime. We actually pulled that random card and got to enjoy that. And that's what you're in for with this game. The Naked Amish Rake Fight. Go look it up. But again, you can see why this one didn't make the list, because as a solo, it is hard to manage. It is hard to get to the table, and it's hard to play it because you're running 4, 5 characters. I think there's 5 characters and a vehicle you have to run, and each one of them has got 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 cards on them. So you're taking cards in and out because you're getting equipment, you're getting rewards every time you win encounters. You're getting cards draws, and there's a lot of interaction between. This character will give you a bonus for +1 if you're doing ranged combat, while this guy gives you a +2, and there's all those combos. So if you're playing with somebody, you just say, oh, hey, this guy's going to shoot his M16, and then the other player would say, oh, my character gives you a +1, and another character would say, oh, my character gives you a +2, right? But no, you don't get all that when you're playing solo. You gotta, okay, this guy's giving me a +1. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of managing. So that's why that didn't make the list. Last but not least, another honorable mention is going to be, it's a war game that didn't make the list, and I thought it was going to. I was really hoping it would. This is World War II Barbarossa to Berlin. I actually had this on the table within the last 6 months. Maybe last year. I know it was 2022. I actually had this on the table because I'm trying to remember what it was called. We bought a GMT game, and it was the East Front game. I can see the box. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's like not the Dark Sands, East Front. What the hell is the name of that? It'll come to me. But anyways, on the back side of the map, it was this game, World War II Barbarossa to Berlin, because it was by the same designer. And this game is so good. And I had it all set up, and it's card driven. I talked to you about how much I love the cards. It's card driven game. It's got all the area movement boxes and stuff. It's again one of these games. But here's the thing. And it's got even a high solitaire rating, 7 out of 10, right? And it probably does play pretty well solitaire. You just have to run 2 different hands of cards. Here's the problem. It takes probably 20 to 30 hours to play it, and it takes up a big boatload space. I mean, this map, as you can see, is huge. So you have to have a separate table that you can put this out on and leave it up for a while. And I don't have that here. So unfortunately, or you can play it on Vassal, I guess. But I just hate playing games on Vassal when I own the board game version, right? So I wanna hold the stuff in my precious little hands. I want to touch it. I want to feel it, right? So that's why this one, 102, didn't make the list. It's so close. It's a great game. Highly, highly recommended. I think it's like the Dark Sands. Oh, I can see the box too, but it's behind. It's behind other boxes, and I know exactly where it is. I just can't get to it to look at it. It's an Ease Front game. GMT produced it last year, and it had on the regular map, and then on the flip side of the map, it had this one, and it was mounted map. So, anyways, other games that didn't make the list, and I don't have the boxes to show you guys, but Great Wall didn't make the list, and that is a gosh darn shame, because the Great Wall is like the best Kickstarter that I ever got. It has got the best miniatures, hands down the best miniatures in any game that I currently own. And it was such a great little fun game to play. The problem is, again, solo mode is just, it's not great. Solo mode. So you have to run, for solo mode, you have to run your faction. You have to run another faction that's your teammate, and then you have to run the AI faction. So when you're running solo in this game, you have to still run 3 different factions. Now, the one faction always does the same thing over and over and over again. It's basically very AI generic, but you're basically running kind of 2 different other factions at the same time and manipulating them, because there is no true solo mode in this game. And so Great Wall, great fun game. Oh, I was so hoping that game so I could show it off, and because it's the only Kickstarter that from 2019. This is the only Kickstarter that I liked that I've received so far. Zerawa that I got didn't make the list. I'm just, spoiler alert, 2019 Zerawa, because we've never played it on the channel. And then the other one I'm still waiting for. Thank you, Mansions of Monsters of Madness, or whatever the hell your game name was. I can't even remember the Kickstarter that I did 4 years ago now. I can't even remember the name of it. It's supposed to be coming out in 2023, maybe, sometime, maybe. Still waiting on that one from 2019. No, I'm not bitter. No. What else didn't make the list? Race for Bestone didn't make the list. Made it at 109, just outside the top 100. I actually have 2 copies of Race for Bestone. That's how great a game it is. One's still in the shrink wrap because I ordered one. I pre-ordered one, and then when the game was being released, I ordered another one. And when I ordered the second one, the first one showed up. And I'm like, damn, I just ordered this. How did it show up so quick? And now I know why, because they shipped me my P500. So I actually have 2 copies. And it's part of the GTS system, the Grand Tactical Series. And I think that system is awesome. I just cannot get my head around getting that to the table myself solo. If I was to sit down and play with someone, that's a different story. I think it would be great. I just find it very hard to get energized to play it solo. For me, and the reason I don't play war games as much as I would like to is I found out that most war games are more effort than they are worth when you compare them to a lot of other game systems. I can literally play a sports game. I can play a baseball game in 45 minutes to an hour and be done. It's going to take me 45 minutes just to sort counters. We're not even talking about putting them on the map. I'm just getting counters sorted to put them on the table. That's all. So, yeah. We're not even talking about the 4 to 5 hours you would have to do to clip the counters and, all that. And that's why, for me, wargaming, smaller is better. Smaller, easier. That's one. Blackout, Hong Kong didn't make the list. Hong Kong Blackout. Again, we just picked this up. I wanted to get it on the channel a couple times. Try it out. We got it on the channel. We tried it out. Great game, great fun. Great solo mode. Just didn't get enough time, didn't get enough plays in it to make it one of my top 100s. I feel bad trying to put a game in there if I only played it once or twice. I really need to play it a couple more times than that to get a really good gist of it, right? And so it loses out points because it just, it only had one play. And it was a good play, and it was fun and interesting. And I think the people that watched it kind of thought it was an interesting idea. And, the AI was okay-ish. It was okay. There was nothing wrong with it. It was kind of up and down, whether it was good AI or bad AI. But it was kind of a hand management game, which is, I always kind of like those, right? You get cards, right? Card you use, you might not get it back for a while. So do I want to use this card? Do I want to use this card? This card will give me this bonus. This card will give me that bonus, but I might not get this card back for 2 or 3 turns. This card I will get back next turn, so I could use it again. But the cards that come back with this one are going to be different than the ones that play with this one because based upon the card you're playing, you're putting it in a different row. So it's got that, kind of really interesting mechanic thing going on with that. And then some of the cards that you use, you're going to send them out looking for supplies, and every card that you send out looking for supplies runs the risk of they're not coming back. They're going to be, or they're going to the hospital. They'll come back sooner or later, but they're going to have to go to the hospital to get, because they came back injured. So you got to send them to the hospital. So those cards are out. So there's that. I could send all these guys to search for supplies, but 2 or 3 of them might not come back, and then I won't be able to use those cards for a while. So good, tough decisions. Interesting game. You're not going to find, too many games like that on the market. Blackout Hong Kong. And I think it's highly playable, and I think it's highly fun to try it out. So if you can get your hands on a copy, I would do that. Trying to think of what other games might or make the list. Summoner Wars did not make it, which I was surprised because I played a ton of Summoner Wars. I haven't played it recently, but I used to own all the Summoner Wars stuff. And here's the thing I know. I have Summoner Wars on my wish list at Noble Knight. And a lot of the games that I have on wish list, I put them on there so that they are readily available. So when I go to order something, I just go to my wish list. I can go through and say, okay, I'm buying this and this and this and this, and I just click on them and add them to there, right? I've had Summoner Wars on my wish list there probably for the last 2 or 3 years. And I've had it in my cart at least twice in the last year. But I've never purchased it because it keeps getting kicked out of my cart because I'm like, what am I going to do with this? It's a great, super good 2-player game. If you got a friend in me, then you should be playing Summoner Wars. It is an awesome game. I don't have friends. Nobody likes me. So what am I going to do with the game? It would literally sit here and I would have to play both sides. And I will not play that game two-handed because the whole game is based upon your strategy you're using. And if you're playing that game, I'm going to know your strategy if I'm playing myself. So I just cannot pull the trigger on this because there's only one of me. As awesome as me is, there's still only one of me. and I can't pull the trigger on it because it's like, no, I'm not going to play that game by myself. You need someone to play it, and it only plays 2. You can't play 3, you can't play 4, you can't play 5, you can't play 6. 2 is it. So it doesn't make it, even though it is a great, great, great game. Another really good, interesting game, and I think it's going to be highly, highly ranked on a lot of other people's lists, especially Eurogamers, is Marvel United. Another game that we just picked up recently. Great game, great system, a lot of fun. It is a family-friendly superhero game, which you don't get many of those. And man, oh man, this game is really, really good. And it is family-friendly. And it is very interesting. And the solo mode actually is pretty decent. You choose 3 characters, you shuffle their decks together, and then you're playing cards from the deck based upon your hand of cards. And you can choose any of the cards in your hand to activate any of the heroes. So the solo mode works great and fine. Again, the reason it didn't make the list, it made it to, what did it make it? 119, was just because it just didn't get played. We just got it. It's just last month, brand new to the channel. Like literally March. I think it was March. It was actually March. Yes, that was last month, Jester. Right. Last month, March, it was a new game on the channel. It was one of our 9 games that we put on the channel, brand new games. So we only played it once or twice. And again, as much as I would like to give it more points, we just haven't played it enough to really check it out. And there's a ton of expansions. So I kind of said to myself, oh, I would like to play this again. But what I would like to do is get the Asgard and the Spider-Man and the Black Panther expansions, right? Get all those in. So then you get all these other characters, you get all the other villains, and then you can randomize all them together. So you can have Black Panther and Spider-Man and Hulk, right? Going together against, Green Goblin, which would be awesome. So I kind of said, oh, yeah, this is kind of cool. It's a pretty good game, pretty good system. Let me go get some more of the expansions, but I didn't pick any of the expansions because I was buying lots of other games. Like I would get it in the cart and I would say, oh, I probably should get this. But then I was like, no, what you want to do is get a game you haven't played because your top 100 games of all time is coming up, Jester. And if you don't play it before that, it's not going to have a chance to be on the list. And I would say, you're probably right. So I didn't get any more of the expansions. So it kind of just got left behind in the expansion list waste of my closet, I guess. If that makes sense. And I think that's probably a good overview of what's going on. We will get to the list tomorrow at 8, number 191. Kind of what I'll do is probably have the boxes set out and I'll just talk about the game. Say, all right, here's number 90, here's number 100, and show you the box, talk about it a little bit, kind of go over, why I like it, why I didn't, why it wasn't ranked higher, and kind of the pros and cons of it. Probably do that for each of the different games, and then So again, based upon my personal thoughts, my personal feelings about the game, your personal feelings might be completely different. So I think it'll be just fun. I'm going to be doing this here on my channel. Higher Ground Gaming is going to be doing some on his channel. Maybe Phoenix Knight and maybe Lower Slower Board Gamer will be doing some on their channel. But I know one thing: Thursday and Friday this week, Thursday and Friday next week, and Thursday the next week, 5 episodes we got in the next couple weeks coming up. And then come April 30th, every Sunday night at 8 o'clock, we're switching to Sunday night. It's going to be myself, Phoenix Knight, Lower Slower Board Gamer, Higher Ground Gaming, the four of us getting together and talking about 50 to 41, 40 to 31, 30 to 21, 20 to 9 to 11, and then 10 to 1. Back to back to back to back. 5 weeks. We're going to count down the top 50 of all time here on the channel. So thanks everyone for joining me tonight. Tim, thanks buddy. Higher Ground Gaming, we'll see you soon. Hopefully he'll be doing his list and to kind of mirror mine as well. And hopefully Lower Store Board Gamer will do the same over on his channel. And hopefully Phoenix Knight, if he can get anything going on his channel before we get together, that's awesome. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Here it comes. We'll see you then. Until then, my friends, we'll see you all down the line.